Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Get started in a minute. I commented on the comment. You can see the slides that we're going to be covering today. So if you want, you can follow the slides, inshallah. I have the slides in front of me. Obviously, given the virus, I'll be recording today from my house, inshallah. So if there are any questions or anything, feel free to send in a message. I'll do my best to track it. But beyond that, let's get started, inshallah. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Today is day 9. We're almost done with the series. So for those of you who actually stayed consistent throughout the entire time, Allah reward you and keep you steadfast and consistent in everything that you do. Today's discussion is on decisions. So as you guys might imagine, if you're already looking at the slides, the first thing that talks about is the hadith, again in Kitab al-Adab min Riyad al-Salihin. Jabir radiallahu anh, he reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to teach us the istikhara, seeking guidance from Allah in all matters, as he would teach us a surah of the Quran. And he used to say, when one of you contemplates entering upon an enterprise, let him perform 2 rak'ah of optional prayer other than the fard prayers, and then supplicate. And the hadith continues on. To say in Arabic, but what I'm going to do for the viewers to understand is say the translation. On the slides, if you actually click the link, you'll see a link to basically a how-to guide. It's coming from a Hanafi perspective of performing istikhara, so we'll cover that at the end. It's referenced, inshallah. We'll get to that towards the end, but for now, what I wanted to say is I want to say the English translation of the dua, and I wanted to just think about it for a little bit before we start this discussion. So if I go through the hadith in translation, it's saying that, "Oh Allah, I consult you through your knowledge, and I seek strength through your power, and ask of your great bounty, for you are capable, whereas I am not, and you know, and I do not, and you are the knower of hidden things. Oh Allah, if you know that this matter," and this is the point where you would actually make dua for whatever it is you're making dua for. So commonly used, you hear that istikhara is done for marriage, but we're going to talk beyond that today, inshallah. But let's say if it was marriage, you would say that if you think that this individual so-and-so is best for me, you would put their name in that part of the dua. You would say, if you know that this matter, let's say marrying this person, is good for me, in respect of my deen, my livelihood, and the consequences of my affairs, the sooner or latter of my affairs, then ordain it for me, make it easy for me, and bless it for me. Right? So ordain it for me, make it easy for me, and bless it for me. And then Allah, the hadith continues on, the dua says, but if you know that this matter is bad for my deen, first my deen, then what? My livelihood, the second. And then the third thing, the consequences of my affairs. So these 3 things are listed in that order for a reason, right? So deen comes first, then livelihood, then the consequences of my affairs. The sooner or the later of my affairs, then turn it away from me. So whatever. So let's say you want to marry someone, you're saying that if you think that me marrying this individual is bad for my deen, my livelihood, and then the consequences of my affair, turn this person away from me. And then what does it say? And turn me away from it. So this person, keep them out of my life and keep me out of their life. Get me away from it. And grant me power to do good, whatever it may be, and cause me to be contented with it. And let the supplicant specify the object. In Bukhari, this is the hadith, a very long hadith, because the hadith has the dua in it itself. So the main topic is talking about asking Allah. So if we go to the next slide, the points to note, the first thing is this. This class is about adab, it's about etiquette. And one of the biggest things that we lack, whether you're a college student or not, but this is mainly for the college students, is that we forget to ask Allah, right? We do everything that we can to get whatever we're aiming for. So if you're a college student aiming for a certain grade, you're so focused in your studies, you become dependent on your studies to such a point that you forget to ask Allah to have Him help you in your exam, right? Sometimes we're so overwhelmed in studying, and what we do is we lose ourselves with this entire phase of, oh, I'm up all night, or I'm studying all day, I'm busy, I don't have time for anything else, you forget to ask Allah, right? And this lecture is not about marriage, it's about asking Allah, right? We already had a talk on marriage before. This is about asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So where is the adab in this? The adab is that in everything that we do, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help, for His barakah, for Him to make it easy for us. And if He thinks it's best for us, then for Him to allow it to enter our lives. If He thinks it's bad for us, then for Him to take it away from our lives and for us to go away from it. This is very important. This is very important. This dua for istikhara is essential to everything that we do. When you're buying a car, for example, you're buying a car and you have the money saved up for it and you think this is the best car to get and you make dua for it and you're saying, I have the money, I have the means, but I'm making istikhara, and if something were to happen and that car doesn't come my way, then that's best for me, because Allah protected me from having that car. Who knows that I could have gotten that car and I was driving that car and that car leads to an accident, right? We don't know what the things that seem good, the things that appear as good, if they're actually good or not. So I wanted to keep talking on this. So the first thing is this, our focus is to focus on the etiquette of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because as college students, often we forget. And we only set it aside for the big things, right? We set it aside for the final exams. We set it aside for marriage. We set it aside when buying a house. Well, you're usually broke as a college student, but maybe down the line when you have a career and you have some money, you set it aside for these major things, and you think that's what istikhara is about. And what you're doing is you're in this mindset where you think that Allah only needs to come into my life only when I want Him to come into my life. And what happens is we forget to realize that Allah is actually in every single part of our lives, right? He's actually dictating how everything happens. From how we wake up to how we go to sleep, He's there, He's present, He's knowing, He's alert, and He's helping us through it all. So when you and I forget, right, and you and I don't realize to ask Allah, we end up forgetting to thank Allah, and we end up losing the help of Allah. And that's when we end up thinking that everything that we do is based on what I do, what I have done, what I have accomplished, and arrogance forms, right? Arrogance forms. And when arrogance forms, subhanAllah, that's when you have a trait of shaitan. These things can go very quickly. It escalates very quickly if you forget to ask Allah, right? Even when taking medication and you're sick, right? Even in this time with the pandemic happening, with the coronavirus, we're doing our best to find vaccines, and people are doing their best to, have social distancing, and people are not even going to pray Jumu'ah, and the masajid are closed. And I understand all of that is happening, but beyond that, in addition to that, we still need to ask Allah. We still have to make dua to Allah to say, hey, no, we need protection. That in fact, everyone could be infected, but if Allah wills, no one can pass away. And no one could be infected, but if Allah wills, He can kill us all at one instant with a blow. Like Ad and Thamud. This can happen. This is all to the will of Allah. We need to ask. We have to ask. This is very important. So I want us to understand that asking is a very crucial, essential part of us as Muslims, especially as students, because we often forget, because when we're in the college environment, we're so focused on our competency and our intellect, we forget that Allah has the most intellect and Allah knows everything, right? And in that dua, you know and I do not know, right? Allah knows that which is unseen. Allah knows everything. So this is very important. So this is just a preface to what we're going to discuss today, inshallah. So now we can kind of get started. So the first thing is this. The purpose of istikhara, right? The hadith referred to istikhara. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he mentioned that before the istikhara happens, before someone conducts istikhara, one should seek advice from those whose knowledge, wisdom, and concern one is confident of. So this is basically how any decision happens. So the topic for today is decisions, right? So before you and I make a decision, the first thing we have to understand is that, look, there's two avenues to kind of follow in making decisions, right? So when it comes to making decisions, you have something called shura, right? Mashwara, like you consult others, right? And then you have istikhara, right? You have istishara, you have istikhara. So you have both, where you consult people and you also seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance and His support. So I want to talk about both, because this is how we decide. The etiquette in deciding as college students, we have to follow these etiquettes, right? And I wanted to bring up by asking Allah as an initial point, because that's the point we often forget, like I mentioned earlier. So Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he mentioned that first, and there's difference of opinion. Some scholars say do istikhara first, then consult. Some scholars say consult, then do istikhara. Either way, just do your best to do both, right? Whenever you're deciding something. And like I highlighted earlier, We want to decide, we want to follow this process for decision making in almost everything that we do. That in one scholar mentioned that people would wake up in the morning. They would wake up in the morning and they would pray istikhara in the morning, asking Allah for them to guide them through their affairs for that day. Just that day. So imagine every morning these individuals would wake up, of these pious individuals, they would wake up and they would pray istikhara, asking Allah, Allah guide me throughout this day, that you take care of my affairs, and whatever affairs that I have in mind today, if they're good for me, then let them come to me with ease, and if they're not good for me, then turn them away from me and turn me away from them. So, two parts to it, right? You have to ask people and you have to ask Allah, right? And however you go about it is up to you. Maybe sometimes, maybe you're with your friend and a discussion comes up and you consult your friends first, and then after you're done consulting your friends, then you're like, I need to go back home and pray by myself and make dua, right? Or maybe sometimes you're thinking and you make dua at your house and you're like, I need to go ask somebody. Whatever it is, but both need to be done. So, the process of istikhara. So, the process of istikhara is this. It's very simple. Like, you just pray 2 rakat, right? At any time, like the hadith mentioned. So long as it's a time that's not disliked to pray upon, right? So this is the time of the zenith, when the sun is at its highest peak, the 15 minutes after sunrise and the 15 minutes before sunset. Those time periods, we do not pray, given it's not your fard prayer, right? So 2 rakat that you would pray. And then after that, you would make the dua. Like I said, guys, at the end of the slides, and I'll share this in the comments as well. If you just click the first comment that I've shared from the MSA Dearborn page, you'll see the slides, and it'll take you, and you go all the way to the last slide. You'll see a reference. You'll see a reference link. That link will show you step by step on how to make istikhara. The focus of today's lecture is not for me to teach you how to make istikhara, but for me to highlight the importance of istikhara and to highlight the importance of the process we have to follow when making a decision. That's basically our focus today. But I have that for reference. Maybe we're not aware of it. Maybe we're not familiar with it. We can go to that reference and learn more from it, inshallah. So that's the process of istikhara. Very simple, right? We're 15 minutes in, but there's a lot more to discuss. We're already done with one of 2 slides. The second slide is basically the bulk of today's discussion. Because what happens is that, first of all, as college students, not everyone has their life planned out. So when it comes to the decisions, many college students don't even know what to decide on. They don't even know what they're going to have for lunch. They don't even know what they're going to wear the next day. Decisions are something that college students actually are far from. They avoid it. They're so relaxed. The only thing they decide on is their semester coming up next semester. That's it, the classes that's coming up next semester. That's probably the only thing in their mind. And who are the professors going to be? And that's probably the one thing college students take the most time in following the process for making a decision. That they're like, Allah, please let this class be open. Allah, please, and you ask your friends, say, who's an easy professor? Who has the old exams? Who has the old material? How can I do better in this class? What's your suggestions? What are your tips? Should I take this professor? Should I wait a semester? Maybe I can take this later on. And you have all these questions. You do so much consultation to decide your semester. Well, Islam says you do that for anything and everything, right? Nothing so minute as to where you can't figure out what to do in your life and you're like, okay, should I turn on the TV or not? Nothing like that. But deciding on how to carry out your daily activities of what are you actually doing throughout your day. If you're studying, what are you studying and why are you studying it? These things need to be scheduled and organized for college students, right? This is very important for us. So the second slide is what mainly is my focus. So the first point that's on there is that the common struggles for students. I mentioned a few already earlier, right? That college students usually struggle when it comes to final exams, so they wait for that. Another struggle that college students have is when it comes to dating or relationships or marriage, right? That's when they do istikhara. These are probably the 2 things I can see college students asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His support. I don't want to talk about those 2 things. The reason why is because you guys are already doing it, right? Which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Let's highlight that. That's a positive thing, and I commend you guys for doing it and keep doing it. But what I want you guys to understand is that we really need to allow, and subhanAllah, I shouldn't even use the word allow. We really need to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in our lives no matter what. So even though you and I might think a certain way, you and I might feel like I get to decide what I'm going to do today, know that Allah is very aware of what you're doing. And if you and I don't have a end goal in mind, if you and I don't know what our final destination is, if you and I don't know what we plan to do with everything that we're doing, if you and I don't know the purpose of our 4 or 5 year or 8 year program that we're in for college, for medical school or whatever, if we don't know the focus and the purpose and the end goal of everything that we're doing, then there's really not much meaning to it. So when it comes to, and there's meaning beyond just school, and we also have to address that. So when you're coming to your house and you're coming to your family, right? As a man, what are you doing for your family? As a woman, what are you doing for your family? As a son, what are you doing for your parents? As a daughter, what are you doing for your parents? If you and I think and live that in a way where we think our decisions only matter for whatever our classes are, our decisions only matter for whatever our degree is on, our decisions only matter for whoever we want to marry, then we're foolish. We're absolutely foolish. That you and I have to understand that there's a bigger purpose to why we're here. And that's why you'll see another note that's coming up in the later slide, in that slide, the next point is talking about purpose of life. But I'll connect that soon, inshallah. Now look, as college students, your purpose is not just college. And I really hope we all understand that. Now we really understand that, hey, I have a bigger purpose to serve. Before you're a college student, you're a son and a daughter. Before you're a son and a daughter, you're a Muslim and a Muslimah. These are very important things to understand. So when you think that the only decisions you need to make depend upon your career, you're fooling yourself. You're absolutely fooling yourself because you're not realizing what Islam has for you. See, when you do istikhara, if you go back to the first slide, if you look at the hadith, remember I said there was 3 things to focus on? What was the first thing? The first thing was, Allah, if you think that this matter, whatever this matter is good for my deen, is good for my affairs, it's good for the consequences of my affairs, then allow it to come into my life. But I have to ask everyone else the question and think, what are the decisions that we make in our life that don't really impact our deen? Think about it. When you hang out with your friends, this is going to go into the part where it's related to college students. When you're hanging out with your friends, when you're hanging out with your family, what are you doing? What's the purpose of these gatherings? When you decide to have an activity with the friends, when you decide to do something specifically, and this is something I'm going to hit with opposite gender interaction, for example. College students, right, this is very common, right? College students like doing things together, right? Let's go out and let's do something together. I've touched on this topic earlier before. I'm touching it on again because I think it's very relevant. And I think that, people maybe who weren't here last time or tuning in this time, but what do you think, what do you think drives the decision for you to go out and do something with your friends? When your friends invite you, do you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask for guidance to say, should I really go out today? Should I really go out with my friends and it's maybe 11 at nighttime and then my parents are wondering why I'm going out so late? Should I really do that? Are you asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a decision on this? Or are you just deciding that, no, it's a Friday night, it's 11 p.m., who cares? I can sleep in tomorrow morning, I'll go out. You see that? When we do that and we don't ask Allah, we're missing out on that etiquette. We're missing out on that adab, that manner that we're supposed to have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we ask Allah, we become what? We become God conscious. We realize that the decision that we're going to be making definitely impacts us in our deen. And our family is a part of our deen. I'm using this as one example. This can be applied in many cases. But our family is one example of our deen. So for us to say that, actually, no, maybe it's not the best thing to go out right now at 11 p.m., even though it's a Friday night. Maybe my mom might be worried, or maybe my dad needs me for something, right? Do you think it's good to go out and it's Sunday afternoon for lunch and your family's been waiting for you the entire week? And maybe now this is the time for you to sit down with your family to eat and your friends invite you out? What should you be doing? As a son, as a daughter, should you be helping your parents maybe prepare lunch instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to go outside? If you were to ask Allah, your consciousness would wake up and you'd realize that maybe this isn't the best thing for me to do. And I'm giving a very general, simple example, a very simple example. One that's probably not so harmful, but it definitely leaves an impact. That we have to understand that, hey, the decisions that I make in my day-to-day activities are very much part of my deen. The decisions that I make in my day-to-day activities are very much part of who I am as a Muslim. And if I don't actually treat it that way, I'm not being the type of Muslim that I should be. This class is for what? the purpose of this class is for our akhlaq. It's not to help you get better grades, though it might, I don't know. It's not to for your own benefit to do whatever you want or get something out of it so you can find a hadith to throw at someone's face. That's not the purpose of this class. The purpose of this class is for us to come together every week and understand, what can I improve about my character today? What can I improve about my character today? And if there's one thing that I could help you guys maybe focus on this week, is that this week you leave this gathering and say that the one thing that I want to improve is that I realize that Allah is an essential part of everything that I'm doing, and I need to be aware of that. So before I act or before I react to something, before I make a decision, even though I think the decision is solely mine to make, even though the decision completely and only impacts me, right? So let's say you look at haram, right? You look at haram. You're like, that only impacts me. I'm not hurting anybody. But if I were to ask Allah, should I look at this, see how the perspective changes? You would automatically feel guilty. The Christians have a phrase for this, right? They say, what would Jesus do? That's not what I'm saying. No. I mean, Isa alayhi salam, what he did was perfect. We should follow his example and we follow the example of Prophet Muhammad. But the point is this, you ask Allah and you ask, what is Allah's expectation? Right? What is Allah's expectation? Like, should I actually look at this? Should I actually go to this place? Should I actually leave at this time? Should I actually do this certain thing with my friends? Is it really worth it? Would Allah be happy about it? Should I ask Allah? And of course, if you also consult, right, you have to know who to consult. This is the second point I want to make. When it comes to the istikhara and the istishara, when it comes to consulting, who are you consulting? I gave the example of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. He said that ask someone who is confident and knowledgeable and wise. Right? Confident and knowledgeable and wise. Who is that? There's no specific answer to it. You can't just say, ask your parents. You can't just say, ask the imam. There are people in communities in masajid who have positions, but they're not as knowledgeable as someone else who might not have that same position. There are parents, there are mothers and fathers who have done their best to support and cater for their children, but maybe they don't have the knowledge they need. You and I, it's our responsibility to find the people, to find people like scholars, for example, right? Learned individuals of deen, of Islam, and we go out to them. And of course, coming back to our parents is a part of the barakah process itself, for us to come back and ask our parents to say, what do you think? What do you think I should do? What do you recommend? What do you suggest before I make a decision, right? If you were to ask your mom and dad before going out and say, do you think I should go out? They would probably say no, right? And they would give their reason, whatever the reason may be, right? And that prevents you from going. And they're like, wow, my son or daughter realized this before I even had to tell them, hey, why are you going? You see, your entire interaction with the people around you changes. And more importantly, your interaction with the people that matter to you the most changes, which is your family, right? So we have to figure out that, look, our common struggles beyond the whole marriage thing and then the final exam, look, life is more than that. And that's another point that I want to go into. And that's going to be the biggest point that we make today in today's lecture. Just give me a few minutes. We'll get there, inshallah. But going back to the whole mentality that we need to have in order to accept Allah. We have to accept Allah. Allah's already there, right? Allah is there. He knows. He's very aware. You and I just have to realize, because we're living a facade. We have this delusion we're in, where we're thinking that Allah only comes into my picture when I pray. That the way I dress when I pray matters, but as soon as my salah is done, I can just take off whatever I want and I can do whatever. No. Did Allah leave? Did Allah leave your life? Ask Allah before you decide to change your clothing, to wear something He might not like for you to wear, right? Ask that. Oh no, when I'm at the masjid, that's when I'm smiling and I'm courteous and I'm polite. But then when I go out with my friends, I'm rude, I'm disrespectful. When I'm with my workers or my employees or my employers, I have a different behavior, I have a different attitude. When I'm at Meijer, when I'm at Walmart, I'm a different person, right? Why? Ask Allah. Ask Allah, how should I behave? Right? Allah, guide me my way to Meijer, if I'm going to Meijer or Walmart, whatever it is, that I conduct my affairs at this grocery store or this superstore, whatever it is, in a way that you see best fit. And if it's best for my deen, allow it to come to my life easily. And if it's bad for my deen, take it away. This sounds a little bit silly, but I'm being honest. That's why I gave the example of people who used to make dua in the morning for their day, every day. Every day. Imagine. You're doing this, most of us are on a repetitive cycle every single day. We're like, I gotta wake up, I go to class, I have a break, I eat lunch, maybe I pray, I don't know. I have some research to do, I have some internship to attend, I have some volunteering hours to put in. I gotta come home, maybe play some video games or go out with my friends or go out to eat or something. And it's a cycle every single day, every single day, every single day. So much so you're so confident. You and I are so confident about our daily activities that you and I would never imagine that here we are on whatever date, March, I don't even know the date because I've been in my house locked in, whatever, March, whatever, and I'm not at campus. That you would never imagine you would not be at campus. You would never imagine that, oh wait, my classes are pass or fail now? Imagine you knew that when you started off the class, right? You probably would have been a lot different. Things would have changed. Things would have changed. We become so used to our daily habits that we don't realize. We don't actually realize that, subhanAllah, we don't control what's happening. We don't really control, March 23rd, Jazakallah khair. We don't control what's really happening, right? And when you ask Allah every single day, you realize and you remind yourself that, hey, Sayyid, you don't really get to control, man. Just like how the coronavirus came in, right? COVID-19 came in and swooped the entire, not nation, but the entire world in a matter of months. We realize that, subhanAllah, that we don't control anything, right? And now today we're actually in that mindset of, asking Allah for support and dua. But nonetheless, my point is this: we need to have this mindset. This mindset needs to be instilled. If you don't have this mindset, leave this lecture telling yourself, I'm going to create this mindset. This is an action item. You have to do it. If you don't do it, you won't understand how to ask as a Muslim. That you and I will never realize the importance of asking Allah. I gave you guys what can happen if you don't ask Allah, right? If you don't ask Allah, you will lead to realizing that you think you will foolishly deceive yourself to thinking that you are in complete control of everything that you do. And you will think and you will deceive yourself to say that you are worthy and you are the one who really got you where you are today. And you will think and deceive yourself to think that, hey, I did this on my own, and Allah, who's Allah? And that's how it happens. It starts very simple. And to prevent that, we want to make sure we always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever we do, beyond marriage, guys, beyond your final exams, please start thinking in a way, in the mindset of a Muslim, to say that, hey, should I really do this? Should I really make this decision? Should I really go here? Should I really say this? Insane things, brothers and sisters, insane things. When you're arguing with somebody on Facebook for some reason, even if you're arguing with people on Facebook for social distancing, that's been happening very, very commonly now, right? There's this group of people who are like, hey, it's fine, do what you gotta do, or like, they have their opinions, and people are arguing. How you're approaching someone really matters. If at the end of your argument, all that happens is that this person dislikes you and still doesn't change their mind, what happened? What was the purpose of you commenting back and forth for 5 minutes? Nothing. You have gotten nothing out of it. But if you were to ask Allah, should I really go on through with this? And if I'm doing it, that's when you actually think, like, make me say what would actually be impactful. You're more conscious of what you're saying, right? Just the idea of knowing that I'm supposed to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before I do something humbles us. Just that idea itself allows us to realize that maybe I should be more patient. Maybe I should be more calm. Maybe I should be more respectful. Maybe I should be smiling. Maybe I should be more kind. Maybe I should be more generous. And through this, just by asking Allah or remembering that I'm supposed to ask Allah, what happens? We realize, wow, I really need Allah's help. I really need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. So, what happens? Now let's talk about the situations when students do ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, right? So this is considering and assuming, and the implication is there that you have done tawakkul at your best, right? Tawakkul is what? The idea that you do your part. The common example or analogy given is that you tie your camel. You're all familiar with this. So beyond that, beyond dua itself, you have to make sure that you do your part. You cannot just say, Allah, protect me from this virus. Then you go out and touch everybody. You can't. That doesn't work. That's not how tawakkul works, right? You say, Allah, protect us from this virus. You make dua and you stay at home and you protect everybody and yourself, right? So this is important. This is very important, because what happens when someone does that? This is the crux of today's discussion, right? When we make a decision, brothers and sisters, accepting our fate. So I want to take some time and I want to tell you guys, this is the main focus in terms of not the main focus, but the bulk of what the lecture will be. Accepting our fate. This is something we really struggle with. I've seen multiple people. I have struggled with this. I still struggle with this, right? Everyone struggles with this. Accepting our fate. That when we make dua and we really try hard, and whatever it is we're doing, maybe it's a class we're striving towards, and you make dua and you're studying, you're doing everything you can, you're respectful, and then you end up falling short. You end up falling short of your goal. That one, maybe you can somewhat live with. You have complaints. Okay, let's keep going. Let's make it a little bit bigger, right? You make dua, I don't know, for a certain car, even though that's really easy to find specific cars. You have the money, everything you've done, you've worked hard to save up your money, you worked in a halal way, right? You earn money, which is halal, right? You made dua, and you go to the car lot, and the car's gone or something. I don't know. What do? How do you accept your fate? Or you're in a coronavirus lockdown, you can't go outside to buy a car, maybe. I don't know. Well, how do you accept your fate? This is the biggest question and the biggest struggle I see with not just students, man. Everybody. Everybody has this struggle. And this is when the whole question comes, is Allah unfair? Allah is unfair now, right? Because I didn't get what I was supposed to get. I have done everything I could to get this. I have followed the process step by step. Sayyid, you said, do istishara. I did istishara. Sayyid, you said, do istikhara. I did istikhara. I am doing everything you told me to do. Why am I not getting it? Brothers and sisters, Rasulullah ﷺ lost battles. Yes or no? Think about it. The Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lost battles. He lost wars. Right? The Muslims took a huge upset. They were defeated by Khalid bin Walid before he became a Sahabi. The Muslims lost. Right? That happened. Rasulullah ﷺ lost his children. Does that mean he was a bad parent? No. Does that mean he didn't do his best? No. Does that mean he didn't make dua? No, definitely not. He was the best of parents. He made the most of du'as, and he gave it his best that anybody ever could. But he lost his kids. But he lost a battle. The idea that just because you and I ask for something and we did everything our best to get it, it doesn't mean we deserve it. First of all, that's the first problem. Because the first problem you and I have is that we think we deserve it. And I'm going to talk on that point. And nor does it mean it's good for us. That's the second problem. So we'll talk about these two things, right? The first being that we think we deserve it, and the second being that it's good for us. So the example of a grade. Example of an interview, right? You have a good GPA, whatever, you go to an interview, you've done everything you can, you have a stellar performance, stellar background, stellar resume, you've built yourself up throughout the 4 or 5 years you've been in college, maybe you have a master's degree or something, and you go to apply to a company, and you've been doing your best to get a job, you're trying your best, and you're like, whoa, subhanallah, I see some comments, I'll try to address it in a bit. So, I didn't get the job. What do I do at that point? I didn't get the job. What was the dua you made? That's my first question to you. When you think you deserve something, my first question to you is what? My first question to you is, what was in the dua you made? That you asked Allah. Allah, you know, and I do not know. You admitted that. I admitted that. We admit that every time we make istikhara, we make dua. So if you and I just explicitly, verbally said to Allah in our dua in the midst of the night that Allah, you know, I do not know. And you know all the unseen as well. You know what's best. And you decree, I don't have any power. Allah, you give me if it's best for my deen. And you have said this. I have said this. And then that certain thing does not come our way. That job does not come our way. That person we thought we were going to marry, we don't end up marrying them. What happened? What changed? Nothing changed. Allah still knows everything. And you and I still know nothing. Allah still is aware of the unseen. And you and I can barely see the seen. We have to wear glasses sometimes, right? Think about it. If you explicitly said this, that means that you actually admit and you submit. Yani, as in Muslim, you're a Muslim, you submit to say, Allah, I don't know. So whatever you give my way, if it's good for me, let it come my way. Let it rush my way. Let it come with ease and make it easy for me. And if it doesn't come my way, it's because of what? It's not good for my what? The 3 things I mentioned in the hadith, in the dua. It's not good for my deen. It's not good. It's not good because the consequences of my affairs will be bad. That if I were to buy this car, like I gave the example before, I might go into a car accident. If I were to get this job, maybe I would make so much money. I would make so much money. The money leads me to arrogance. If I were to marry this person, if I were to marry this boy, if I were to marry this girl, that this person becomes a wretched person later on. Maybe this person ends up hurting my kids or hurting my mother or my father. Maybe they plan or plot, or I don't know who they are. Even if I know who they are, even if I've known them for years, maybe that they're not going to be the person they are right now 5 years down the line. Maybe they'll change into someone who's worse for me, and I'm not aware of this. Maybe if I could see it, then I would be aware. Similar to how you, brothers and sisters, are now aware of this whole pass and fail thing. Imagine if everybody told you before, hey, it's a pass and fail semester. You guys would take the hardest classes, get C minuses and pass everything, or C, whatever you need to pass. Pass it and move on, right? Because you're like, no way out anyway, right? But you didn't know that. You didn't know that when you decided. Just like that, even when you think you know so much and you're so sure, just as sure as you were, for those students, for the senior students who were so sure they were going to be walking the stage this year, it's very unfortunate you don't get the chance to do that. I'm sure they're working their way to allow you to do so, who are so confident that this is it, I'm done. I get to walk the stage, I've been waiting for this. You decided that you're going to take these classes, it's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. We have to be very sure of uncertainty. We have to be very sure of uncertainty. That we don't know where our decisions will take us. We don't know how it will impact us. The way a Muslim finds relief in his and her heart is through the dua of istikhara, and is through consultation of istishara. Say that, you know what, I actually went to the best people that I know. I went to the local scholars that I follow from my masjid. I came to my parents and my mother and my father. I asked for their recommendation. I asked for the scholars' recommendation. I looked at the Quran, what it says. I looked at the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. I stayed within the guidelines of the Quran and sunnah. I did not go across the guidelines of the Sharia. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and it still didn't work out. I must be protected from it. Allahu Akbar. I must be protected from it. It's simple as that. It doesn't get any simpler. And through that knowledge, you and I find ease in our heart. That had I gone through that road, subhanAllah, something worse could have happened. Something that I can't probably even imagine at this point in my life, but it could have happened. I just don't know, because I'm just so ignorant. I'm not aware. I don't know. Allah knows. Allah knows. So that dua is very important to internalize. See, some people, when we make this dua, right? And let's say, for the example, whatever reason you make the dua for, right? You have this mindset, you have this approach. Allah, this is the dua of istikhara. I'm gonna give you two examples of how this dua goes, right? I'm gonna say the dua itself again. I'm gonna say it in English again, right? People join in later on. And then I'm gonna say what we're really saying in this dua, okay? So hear me out. We can say it twice, okay? So first time is the actual dua, okay? Oh Allah, I consult you through your knowledge, and I seek strength through your power, and I ask for your great bounty, for you are capable, whereas I'm not. And you know, and I do not. And you are the knower of hidden things. Oh Allah, if you know this matter is good for me in respect of my deen, my livelihood, and my consequences of my affairs, then let it come my way and bless it for me and make it easy for me. If you know this matter is not good for my deen, if it's not good for my livelihood or the consequences of my affairs, Allah, then take it away from me and take me away from it. Oh Allah, and allow me the power to do whatever good there may be, and allow me to be happy, content with whatever you decide for me. This is the dua. This is what you and I are saying. Oh Allah, I really like this. I really want this. Please let it happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be really sad, because I'm following the steps of making dua. So right now, after this dua ends, it should be working out for me. That's literally how we are. That's how we are when we're making dua. That's how you end up being sad. That's how you end up being disappointed. That's how you end up not understanding how a Muslim thinks. That's how we make dua. When we make the dua, you're like, Allah, but I'm making dua at 2 a.m. It's 3 a.m. I woke up from sleep. I broke my sleep, Allah. Like you're doing Allah a favor. Allah, I'm making dua right now. I really want to get this car. I really want to get this job. I really want to marry this person. Allah, you make it happen, Allah. No, you're making dua. You're saying, Allah, you make it happen if it's good for my deen, Allah. You make it happen if it's good for my affairs, Allah. You make it happen if it's good for my livelihood, Ya Allah. That you could marry this person, because of this person you become broke. You could marry this person, and because of this person, you end up hating your life. You end up with all these consequences in your life where you can't even manage stress because you didn't follow the steps correctly. That even when all the signs said you can't go for it and you're not supposed to do it, you probably go through it anyway, right? You have to be very careful that when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and if something doesn't come your way, if that, whatever it is, brothers and sisters, I know there's a lot of disappointments in our life, right? We struggle a lot when being disappointed, that we have hopes and aspirations. Just like the students who wanted to walk the stage, there are disappointments in life. There are disappointments in life. That's a part of life. Having disappointments is a part of life. We need to accept our fate. The only way we can find true ease in our hearts is if we always make dua and we always ask Allah throughout this manner, through the manner of istikhara and through the manner of istishara. If we live our life in this conduct, with this manner, with this etiquette, whatever happens to us, we won't mind it. No matter what happens to us, we won't mind it. If you do your end of tawakkul and you do everything you're supposed to do, my brothers and sisters, if you have done everything you can to practice social distancing, to keep yourself at your house, and do whatever you can to rarely go out and do all these things, and then you still get infected by the coronavirus, know that somehow, the hadith, I already talked about this in Fast Enough for Eat of Ummah, that the one who is patient gets the reward of a martyr. That even the Muslims, the mu'mineen who are passing away from the coronavirus, they're dying, bi'idhnillah, the death of shuhada, the death of martyrs. The death of martyrs. So think, Islam has a different perspective to life. Islam is not like how you and I see life. Islam is so simple in how you can see things. Things are good for you or things are bad for you. If you ask Allah and it comes your way, it was meant to be and it's good for you. If you ask Allah, it does not come your way, it was bad for you, could have harmed you. That's it. That's it. No matter how much you and I think and we're so confident and we're so sure of what's going to happen if this decision were to go the way I want it to go. I want to get this car. I want to get this job. I want this degree. I want to marry this person. I want this. That you're so sure of it that you would be happy. I hate to break it to you. You can't be sure. In fact, you don't know at all. And if it doesn't come your way and you've actually asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to actually protect you, then take the protection He's giving you. How dare you and I ask Allah to protect me from something and protect you from something, and then when He's protecting you, you're upset about it? How dare we do that? How dare you and I come to a point where we raise our hands to say, Allah, you give it to me if it's best for my deen. Allah's like, no, so it's not best for your deen. You don't get it. And then you and I become upset. We become offended. SubhanAllah. Remember the first problem? The first problem was what? We thought we deserved something. Brothers and sisters, you and I deserve nothing. You and I deserve nothing. Allah already gave you and me the Islam itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already gave us al-Islam. Al-Islam. He gave us deen. He gave us the belief. He gave us iman. He gave us yaqeen. He gave us these things. Beyond that itself is too much to even ask for. Because a lot of people in this dunya don't have it. A lot of people living right now don't have it. A lot of people married the people they wanted to marry in this life. A lot of people got the cars they wanted in this life. A lot of people got the houses they wanted in this life. A lot of people got the degrees they wanted and the jobs they wanted. They got everything they wanted. Till their deathbed, they got everything they wanted. But until their dying breath, they still could not get iman. And you and I have it, and we're offended when we don't get something of this dunya. Subhanallah. This is our state. This is our current state. So we have to be accepting of our fate. We have to be very accepting of our fate, which gets me to the last point of this talk, that listen, you and I can never accept our fate if we don't understand the purpose of life. If we don't understand the purpose of life, we cannot accept our fate. It's very hard for someone who thinks their purpose of life is to become a doctor, and they don't get into medical school. Allah, that's hard. I know it's hard. But your purpose in life is not to be a doctor. Being a doctor is a part of your life. It's a part of your life. It's not the purpose of your life. Being an engineer, being a lawyer, being a nurse, being a PA, being whatever. It's not the purpose of your life. Allah gave the purpose when He said, إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. They were not, the mankind and the jinn kind were not created except to worship. That is the purpose of your life. Maybe you become a doctor and then you forget worship and you forget the salah in the masjid, and because of becoming a doctor or going into medical school, you've forgotten deen itself. That you're so immersed in your studies of being the top student or just staying alive in medical school, you forgot to make salah for fajr. That you stayed up all night, you forgot to wake up. That you struggled so much that you skipped asr because you went out with your friends to study. That's how being a doctor can take you away from deen. Anything can take you away from deen. That's why we ask Allah to give us deen. We have to understand deen. We have to understand our purpose. Brothers and sisters, if you and I don't understand our purpose, we can't do anything correctly. So the first thing is to understand our purpose. Once we understand our purpose, we can accept our fate very easily. If you and I come to an understanding that you and I say that truly the purpose of my life in this dunya is to actually serve Allah and His deen and His religion. My purpose in this life is to come into this life and do the most khidmat, the most service that I can do to positively impact this religion and to carry on the message of all the messengers that came before us. May Allah be happy with them all, including the Prophet Muhammad. If that is my purpose, then why does it matter if I get into this job or not? Why does it matter if I get to work for this company or not? Why does it matter if medical school accepts me or not? Why does it matter if this person marries me or not? Does it limit me for my purpose in this dunya? No, it does not. Not one bit. Because I still get to serve my purpose. My purpose is to serve the religion. My purpose is to be a Muslim. So when things don't come our way, the first thing we realize is that, hold on, Allah's protecting me because I've taken the measures I was supposed to. And the second thing you say is, hold on. Who said I was deserving of it? Subhanallah, I'm not deserving of anything. The fact that Allah gave me Iman is so much itself. I can barely keep up with it. I can barely keep up with Iman. I'm losing my Iman every day instead of improving. I can barely keep up with my Iman. And then the third thing you say is, look, my purpose is more than this. That the fact that I have Iman, the fact that Allah is protecting me, the least that I can do is go back to focusing on my purpose, which is to serve the deen of Allah, to serve my family, to serve my community, to serve the people around me, right? That Rasulullah ﷺ was an orphan without a mother and a father at one point, but he still served. He never stopped serving. That he lost his wife at one point. He didn't stop serving. He lost his children at one point. He didn't stop serving. He got stoned and he was bleeding at one point. Subhanallah, and he stopped. He never stopped serving. He never stopped serving. The only point Rasulullah ﷺ stopped serving is when he completed his mission and it was time for him to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through his death was how he finally stopped serving. And even in his death we learn like the whole, even through death we learn about the Prophet ﷺ. How he was right before in his deathbed. The things he was talking about. He was with his family. Even his adab in that manner. All these things. Rasulullah ﷺ explained to us what the purpose of our life is. By living his life. We look at his life, we say, this is how I want to live my life. This is the purpose I want to have in my life. This is the focus I want to have in my life. That yes, these things matter. Yes, school matters. My grades matter. My classes matter. The program I get into matters. The medical school or the engineering school, whatever I want to go into, it matters. No doubt. The fact that I take care of my family, that I can financially provide for my family matters. 100%. That's actually an obligation, especially for the men. Right? These things matter. No doubt these things matter. The person that I see, it seems like I'm compatible with, if I could marry them, it would be nice to, sure, it matters. But only to an extent. Only to an extent. That the family that you're serving might not be there anymore. The girl you wanted to marry might marry somebody else. All these things can happen. The job you wanted could be taken by your own friend and he applies and he gets the job. And what? So what? Your purpose remains the same. That whether I have this job, whether I'm married, whether I have a family, whether anything happens, I'm serving the deen. I'm serving my purpose. I'm somehow focusing back to everything. And whenever I live my life, in order to serve my purpose, I ask Allah, Allah, what should I do today? How do I make my decisions? And when we have this mindset, brothers and sisters, and we are able to put all these things together, we're able to combine and we're able to intertwine our purpose in life with the decisions we make on a day-to-day basis through istikhara and through istishara, we finally understand how to live as a Muslim. We finally understand how to live as a Muslim. Because if we don't do these things, we get caught up in this dunya. So then when you don't get the grade you want, you end up going through sadness. When the person you wanted to marry that doesn't end up marrying you, you end up going through depression. You end up going through all these hardships. And I'm not undermining those things. Those things happen and they're very real. Emotions exist. But for the believer, The emotions exist, but the tongue never complains. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, like he would cry, but he didn't complain to Allah. Right? You can cry, you can express your emotions, you can express your frustrations. But the decisions, when they come your way, you accept them. You accept your fate. To say, whatever I did my best towards, I have performed the essence of tawakkul itself. I have asked the people who are of knowledge, who are of understanding, who are of confidence, who can guide me, who care for me, who are actually there for me. And even throughout carrying out all these steps, what I wanted I did not get, I carry on living my life. I carry on living my life. I go on to making the next decision in my life. I go on to finding the next job to apply for. I end up maybe applying to a different medical school. I go back, I improve my resume, whatever you want to do. I go back. I try again for something else. And I follow the same process until my dying breath. And throughout it all, I'm serving the deen. I'm serving the deen. I'm serving the deen. That if I'm making a decision to become a doctor, Ya Allah, at least let me become a doctor that can serve the people. Not just make money, but serve the people. And when I make the money, I use the money again to serve the people, to serve the ummah, to serve the deen. That whatever I do and everything that I do somehow goes back to me serving the deen. Has to, because that's my purpose. So when fate comes your way and you make decisions but things don't go your way, you're like, khalas, fine. What's next? What can I do to serve my purpose again? And you just keep going. You just keep going. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to be sad. It doesn't mean you're not going to get hurt. The Prophet ﷺ was physically hurt. I already mentioned this in Taif. He was physically hurt. His wife died. He's emotionally hurt. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give him a revelation for some time. And then Surah Al-Duha came. He was spiritually hurt. Things happen to Prophet ﷺ. You're hurt, but you keep going. You accept fate. You have to accept fate. Especially when you're making decisions. Because when you and I truly accept fate, we're actually saying that, that dua I made of istikhara, that Allah, you know, and I do not know. By accepting our fate, we are showing to Allah that here is how I'm telling you, Allah, that I truly accept that you know when I do not know. I'm okay with the fact that my decision didn't go according to my plan, and I'm happy with it, and I'm moving forward. And that's what the last part of the hadith and the dua says, that you make me, Allah, content with whatever happens. At the end of the dua for istikhara, you're saying, Allah, you make me content for whatever happens. For those of us who join in later, the first comment by the MSA is a link to the slides. If you go to the last slide, there's a reference for it. Again, it's coming from a Hanafi perspective of how to do istikhara. So if you're interested in doing istikhara, you should be, based on this lecture, you should be, right, going more towards focusing to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all our day-to-day affairs, inshallah. Even with this virus, I mentioned this again, right? And I want to make some side points. I posted this on my social media for the brothers and sisters who are watching. Take this opportunity to fast, right? If you're fasting and you're breaking your fast, before you break your fast, make dua for the ummah and the world itself, for all of humanity, that during this time of hardship and trials, that Allah gives us some ease and helps us find a way out of this difficulty, right? And fasting would be a good thing. Sha'ban is coming up. We need to prepare for Ramadan. Don't forget, Ramadan is very real. It still exists. Whether or not the masjid are open for Taraweeh, doesn't matter. Ramadan exists. You still have to fast, right? So get ready for that. Prepare for that, inshallah. And throughout it all, ask Allah. Ask Allah for His help. Ask Allah for His support. When we do these things, we become more humble. We become more aware of the reality. We become more aware of the akhirah, which is actually not within our reality right now that we cannot see, but we become more aware of the unseen. SubhanAllah, we become more aware of the unseen. So do your best, inshallah, throughout this time, especially now that you have more time to be at home. You should be at home. Please be at home. Don't go outside. Don't hang out. Please don't do this. This is causing more issues for the community and the society at large. You have more time at home. Take this time to actually connect to Allah, to actually ask Allah, Allah, how should I live my life? Ya Allah, how do I find my purpose? Allah, I don't feel like I don't feel like I understand my purpose. Allah, I know this guy is telling me that my purpose is to serve you, but how do I serve you? Allah, give me some direction. Allah, whatever I'm going for, Allah, doesn't make any sense in this dunya. Doesn't make any sense for my deen. Allah, help me progress better. Help me improve as a Muslim. Help me improve my character. Make dua for all of us, inshallah. And of course, make dua for this protection from the virus that's going on. And with that, we'll conclude. I think someone made a comment earlier. So sometimes you're working so hard to end up working at a certain place like that hospital or that company, and then you keep getting the big fat no, but there's always a reason behind it. How do you know this disease is a punishment from Allah or not? That is actually not this question. I don't want to comment on it too much because that's not the focus of the discussion. Discussion is more on asking Allah. So if anything in terms of relevance to asking Allah, you would ask Allah to be protected. and you do your best. Like I said, practice tawakkul, and you do your best to stay inside. Keep everybody safe, inshallah, and only go out if you absolutely you have to go out. With that, we'll conclude. Jazakallah khair everyone for joining in. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.